numbers of applications coming through? Are there more people who have applied during this pandemic than before the pandemic? And how is the NFVF coping with that?
For funding. So the challenge with the organization is always that we have limited, we can only fund so much with the limited funds that we have. But it's very sad to see some of good content being rejected based on financing, but not based on their ability, not being to make it through the production process and being exhibited, but it's just based on the limited funds that the organization can offer. We have quite a lot of good stories that South Africans can tell, just that with the limited funds that are available, that poses the biggest challenges. The number of applications, and I'm sure most of the applicants that they've sent their applications to the NFVF can attest to that. They have received some rejection, but it's not that the stories that they want to tell, they are not good enough, but we are just limited by the funding that we have available.
Okay. So if you want to know more about the funding, tomorrow at 10 o'clock, we're talking about financing films. So that's going to be interesting to find out what alternatives there are. Because as at 10 o'clock, we're talking about... There's two of me. Okay, sorry. So we'll be talking about how you can finance your films. As a distributor, I will tell you that we are stretched for content. We really, really need content. Nikki is nodding her head there because she is on our backs every other week saying, where are the local films? Why are you not giving us films to release? Why are you pushing back on local films? So we really do need to put more local films. So again, it's a plus for you in that with a lot of the international studios holding back some of their releases, this has been the perfect time for us to start growing our local audiences, put our local films front and center, and have that opportunity. I mean, we do have limited number of screens, and there is huge competition for screens. So it means that when studios hold back their content, you've got that little gap where you can push in a local film. And it makes us happy because we're showcasing your films, makes Nikki happy because she's got something on the screen that she can advertise to people. So now I'm also gonna address the whole content consumption thing, because a lot of people are saying that the pandemic has shown us that cinema is dead, right? I personally do not believe it. There is a place for everything. Some films need to go to cinema, some films need to go direct to VOD, some films need to go direct to television. So what exactly does it mean in terms of a theatrical release? What does a theatrical release do for a film, and why is it important that we should continue to aim for theatrical releases?
I think one of the important things that or something that we've always known, but has become blatantly, you know, obvious, yeah, in the pandemic, is that the countries that have got strong local content industries were the first to recover after the pandemic. They were not reliant on what Hollywood was doing. They were not reliant on whether Trump was allowing vaccinations or not. They could get their doors back open again and showcase their local content, and it's strong enough to carry those industries. Now, we're often compared with industries like China and India and what's my other favorite, Russia. The difference between us and those countries, and France is another one that people love saying, we must put quotas in. like they've got in France. They can put quotas in France because France is a country that basically has two languages. They have one home language, and then they speak English if their business requires them to speak English. They do not naturally consume their content in English. Here, it is so much more complex than that. We have been brought up consuming American content for the most part, some European content, but for the most part, our content from when you're little and you're watching a kids' TV channel is in English. So we have trained our audiences already to consume content in English. We also have 11 official languages. So when you bring me Matwetwe, which was not even in an official language, it was in what, Kasi? I don't know.
It was in Attridgeville.
Speak.
That's
Okay.
that's
It-
the only language.
Yeah, it makes it very, very difficult as an exhibitor because there are certain, my cinemas sit in specific geographic locations, and the audiences in those locations tend to weight towards one language or another. Very few South Africans can speak all 11 languages, and very few people worldwide want to watch films on the big screen with subtitles. So, language for our industry is a hurdle that's much bigger than in other countries like Turkey and France. Having said that, if we had a local industry that was creating quality, commercially driven content, and this is the part where the filmmakers always get upset with me when I start speaking about commercials. I'm an exhibit, growing genre worldwide. For. That's the type of content that we need. And if we can get our local industry on a solid base of content that appeals directly to the audiences, then in a couple of years maybe we would be able to sit back and say, actually, Hollywood, we're not too concerned about what you do, because our industry can stand on its own.
Yeah, that's interesting as well, because I think what it says to all the creators out here is that the kind of movie you're going to make, the kind of story you want to tell, is largely going to determine what platform it's released on. Because at the end of the day, it's a numbers game, right? So we have to know that, and you have to also accept that it might be the greatest drama in the world, but if it's a drama with, if it's talking about human trafficking and rape and stuff like that, things that we live every day, these are experiences that we live, these are what we call our stories. It's our lived experiences, and we need to tell those stories, but we also need to understand that it's not necessarily going to go onto the cinema, onto a theatrical release. And that's again going back to the opportunities that the pandemic has created. We now have other options for that. So it's about understanding what film you make, who your audience is, and what the most suitable place is for these films. Zulu, I'm going to ask you, because you had mentioned something about funding of short films being one of the interventions that the industry feels need to be made. It's also something that needs to be done more in order to get to grow the industry, right? Because you cannot go from film school or just from waking up one morning to making a great made loads and loads of short films before they started. So what did you get from the industry, from your stakeholders, in terms of their thoughts about the importance of short films, which incidentally do not get a
So short films are one of it's one of the content that is easy to create for filmmakers, and we have seen that there is high demand for short films. So filmmakers now are creating more of short and less of long form content because it's easier to make, and also in terms of funding, that is easier to get from the other funding bodies. But the challenge now with the short form is we don't see, where do you see this kind of across? Now, when it comes to long form, the challenge is always that it's difficult to raise the production funding, and the NFVF has only 1.8 million to offer towards the production budget, which makes it now easier for most filmmakers as a startup to produce more of short films, and I guess it also gives them that opportunity to progress to the next level when they feel content that the content that is created can move to the next level.
Yeah, I think I'm actually a little sad that we didn't have our full panel, because we would have had the DTIC and the SABC here. And I think those are two institutions that really need to get involved in this short film discussion, because if we are about job creation and growing the industry and creating sustainable filmmakers, we need to have a plan for funding short films, and then we need to have a platform to exhibit those short films, which would ordinarily be your SABC or your multi-choice, that sort of thing, because they've got the eyeballs. That's where the most people consume their alcohol, their content from. Okay, no, that's not where my mind is, guys. Scratch that. Um, we do have issues about data costs and stuff like that. So consuming like YouTube can get difficult for us. So it's really important that people like the SABC, the public broadcasters, are on board with showcasing our short films. I'm not sure how we're doing for time, but I think the last thing I just wanted to touch on, Zilungile, you mentioned it in your presentation, and I want to get your input as well, where we've been told that people's consumption habits have changed during the pandemic. People have stopped going to cinemas because there's uncertainty about whether it's safe, whether they're open, things like that. Now, what I would like to find out, is this a permanent change? There's people say that it takes 21 days to form a habit. Does this mean that the change in consumption can be reversed? Can we get people back into cinemas? Because, I mean, you just mentioned before, is that if we want to have that sustainable cinema industry, we need to first have a local industry, people watching local films. Do you think we can change back habits in the given 21 days?
I'm not sure about 21 days, but I do know that good content brings audiences into our cinemas. So we've had a handful of examples since the pandemic started of films that have just outperformed everything else. So everything is underperforming. Okay. At the moment, for the industry, the biggest or the best performing film is No Time to Die, and that on our circuit has done just over 100,000 admissions. Now, to give you some perspective, the best performing film ever for Ster-Kinekor theatres, well, by ever I mean in my lifetime, was Black Panther with over 800,000 admissions. So we're tracking at, what's that, 20%, okay, of the previous best with what is currently the best. Okay, there we go. So good content brings people into cinemas. Being in cinema and being exposed to trailers for other good content is what brings you back a second time. And it is definitely, cinema going is definitely a habit. So I'm I'm positive, I'm hopeful, but I'm also realistic. I don't know that we'll ever get back to the levels of 5 years ago. I don't know that we will. And I don't know that that's the truth for exhibition across the world. We cannot ignore the fact that there are now other platforms on which to consume other content. And what I do see happening is that as an exhibitor, we will probably now have access to less content from a volume point of view than we used to, but that content is going to be more specifically suited for big screen viewing.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Zulu, just also closing. Um, I know NFEF has been very involved in audience development for a very long time. How has the pandemic changed your approach to audience development? What are you doing in terms of encouraging people to get back to cinema? Because it is a very important part of this. And also in terms of encouraging them to watch local.
Okay. Well, there has been a lot of the kind of interventions that look into bringing cinema experience to the audience. We have the big screenings that are happening in the public areas like your parks, where we are promoting local content, and we are also trying to develop more of our local audience and trying to bring them back into the cinema experience. But that has been difficult given the restrictions, because people are still skeptical to go out of their comfort to watch the films. So also we have observed that it's difficult to tell whether our audience has moved from that theatrical experience to now an online platform, because we do not have any evidence-based information. The information that we have is gathered through other agencies or from observation. So you cannot tell whether the current audience has moved from that theatrical experience now to online, your SVOD platforms. But what we know is that everything has time. So after a certain time, usually that experience dies down. So the online platforms that are seeing increase in the number of viewers, after 3 to 5 years, the audience will decline, so their numbers will go down. So what is important now, I think, for most of the organizations that are involved within the film space, is to find a common ground to coexist the theatrical experience and the online platforms, so that also even with our filmmakers, they have a choice in terms of what opportunities are available for them to showcase their local content and not being limited. I mean, the theatrical experience, it's unmatched, it's something else. There are films that you can show in your TV or through the streaming platforms, but that experience you get from cinema cannot be matched with anything. Thank you.
True words. So yeah, we need to wrap this up. I'm told, unfortunately, there won't be a live Q&A to WhatsApp. I think my closing thing is that there is room. There is room for everybody in this room to create content, to tell stories. There is a time and a place for everything. So just do your best, collaborate with people, develop your stories to the best that they can be, and as a distributor, we'll find a place to put it, even if it means grabbing Nikki by the neck and forcing her. Um, there's a lot happening in terms of local. I mean, Happiness Ever After, the sequel to Happiness is a 4-letter word that opened yesterday on Netflix. Thomas
Department. Okay, while we're still waiting for Mr. B is coming to do the live thing. Please, can you please at least play us something small while we waiting, Mr. B? Guys, is there anyone who is still at their comfort zone? Is there anyone who is ready to tackle the industry? Raise up your hand. Let me see. Only one. Guys. Why are you here? Why are you here? Some are not confident enough. You are hiding. Guys, let's wake up. There are many calls in the industry. Once you wake up, then you get there. But if you're still at your comfort zone, you're not going anywhere. There's nothing that can stop you from doing what you feel you can do. Guys, someone's dream, not your dream. Everyone, they have their destination. They know where they want to be. So let's tackle that opportunity. Those who are ready, please clap your hands for yourself. Thank you. Uh, can we watch some? Okay, we have a small disconnection of the live, but we're gonna get back now. Yes. Uh, while they were talking there, I hear someone saying they need popcorns. Guys, ko really enjoy go cinema maban. So can I arrange the popcorns? Okay. Uh, for now, can we have a sweets for some time? Guys, the sweets are still there, and there's still many. We're gonna get some after lunch. So those one they have to be finished. Guys, let me give you a small opportunity. I will need three questions about how to apply for funding. So those who have questions, you can raise your hand, then I'll come to you. Anyone who have a question? Thank you.
Good afternoon. Yes, it's afternoon. I would like to know what are the requirements needed for me to get funding. Let's say if I have everything in order, I have my script, it's ready. All I need is to have funding to start shooting. what is required from me as a producer.
I'm suspecting that you already have your script written, right? And you want to go into production. Well, at the NFUF, we have 3 funding cycles, right? They will open in April, and then there will be another cycle towards end of the year, around August, and then the last one is will be on the following year. So you need to take note of the 3 funding cycles, and when they open, they will tell you which funding is available. It's development, it's production, marketing and distribution, and all. Within production funding, there are different funding categories that you can apply, right? So it depends whether you are doing a short or a feature film or a documentary. And then the documents that you will need. Firstly, you need to make sure that your compliance documents are in order. Your BE certificate, your tax clearance certificate, and you need to certify them. So all that information is available on the NFVF website because now all the applications are done online. So all you need is an internet access, and then once you've logged into the NFVF website, you will be able to go to the link that will enable you to apply. On the first screen of application process, they will tell you the kind of documents that are needed for you to proceed with the application, right? And if there is any document that is missing, or any of the documents that are not certified and you're supposed to be certified, already you will fail the compliance stage. And so once you have gone through the compliance, your application will go to a panel where it will be evaluated according to the production criteria. So the panel is made up of different industry experts. It's not the NFEF panel. So it will be the NFEF team plus experts from the industry that will evaluate your script to see if it's ready to go into production. So once you pass that stage, then that will be communicated to you whether you have been approved for funding or not. And you have a right to ask for the reasons if you are rejected. You can still write to the NFVF and ask for those reasons why you were rejected, so that come the next cycle, you are able to improve on the mistakes that you made in your first application. If you are unable or you do not understand the requirements, then we have Tandekile and Manti that are always available on email or on call to assist you. They will take you through the application process. So one thing that is very important is that submit your application on time and not on the date that is the deadline, because on that date there is a lot of applications that are coming through. Sometimes the system will crash and we won't be able to assist you. But if you are sure to submit your application on time and make sure that you have all the relevant documents, then Tandekile and Manti will be able to take you through step by step to make sure that you have all the compliance documents sorted. Then now the only problem, so that you can succeed to the next stage, which is the panel review. Then it's more of reviewing the actual content. But from the applications department, always make sure that you get the assistance that you need for you to proceed to the next stage.
Are you well answered?
Um, do you fund series that could air on Netflix?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. Tsietsi, who is our funding officer, will be able to answer to those questions tomorrow, and he will also be around today later on, just to give you a breakdown in terms of exactly what is being funded by the NFVF and what is not funded. There is, we fund TV format, but in terms of going into details, I will not be able to give you those details.
Thank you. I'll talk to Mr. Theatre tomorrow.
One more question. Do we have one more question? Guys, let's not be afraid. This is an open for you to get in the industry. If you're afraid to ask now, then how will you be able to do the film? Next time, the film will do you. Guys, let's wake up now. There is much wake up call here. Another question? O ka re ke tla le tshosa jwale. O ka re ke tlo tshosa. Ke tshose? Can I choose?
Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Thabo Kawem from government. Ne? So that when I distort wedding your producers and etc., I'll be embedded to say sorry. But to the fact, your presentation, Madam Speaker, in front, when you said development of local content, you fund it as NFVF and also Commission. What I want to check with you, it's only on the basis that is KwaZulu-Natal having that leverage to come and local content within the space of Northwest? That's the first question in terms of what you presented. The second question, within the ambit of Northwest, how many films, whether you say movies or documentaries, have you funded? Number three, in those who managed to successfully fail to be funded, what was the reason? Poor quality, or I don't know, any other related reason, so that we can improve in that gray area as film producers? Thank you very much.
First question.
Oh, KwaZulu-Natal Film Festival, Film Commission. You said Film Commission, ya KwaZulu-Natal and the NFVF, they fund local content. It's what I heard. So I was checking, is KwaZulu-Natal can have the space to come and fund any local content in Northwest? Or Northwest must establish its own, so that at least government can see what is the gray area and where can we pitch? Thanks. John.
Well, in terms of the difference between the NFVF and the KZN Film Commission, NFVF is the national funding body, so it doesn't matter which province you are coming from, you can be funded. And then with KZN Film Commission, they have a limited scope. They are the provincial office, so they are supporting any work that within the KZM ambits. And then we work closely with all these provincial offices to make sure that where the NFVF is unable to reach, at least there is a provincial office and get support from. So as I've mentioned before, there are the primary provinces and then the secondary and underserviced. With underserviced provinces, there is no film office established or a film commission yet. But it's something that the NFVF is working on to work with the provinces so that at least there is presence of film activity in those provinces. Because what we've noted is that there is some film activity, but for us to record that film activity, we're unable to record that because it's not documented anywhere else. And it's difficult now to report on those film activities taking place in those provinces. We are a national body and South Africa has 9 provinces. Obviously, we cannot be able to reach into places where we want to reach, also given the limited funding that we have. So now the role of film commissions becomes very important to support at provincial level. And your second question was how many films funded in Northwest? That information is available, but I cannot remember on top of my head how many films that are funded. On an annual basis, I can tell you that it is not more than 10 films that are funded in the Northwest, but it's something that we are working on to improve the presence of the organization in the services, especially where there is no provincial office. How many have, or you were asking from those that were rejected by the NFVF, right? What are the reasons? Well, it depends and it differs from one application to the next. As I have explained, there are 2 processes. There is the compliance issue, and then there is a criteria based on the content itself. So the applications department will be able to give you those reasons why your application was not the right to request that information, because it will help you if you want to reapply for the same project, so that the same mistakes, at least that you had within the compliance stage, you are able to pass that, and then now you move on to the next stage, which is evaluating the content.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to make a follow-up on what my brother here has asked. Are we saying that when we reject applications, we don't give people or the applicants reasons unless they ask for those reasons for rejection? Is it not, would it not help when you reject and to say, look, you are not successful on this application based on the following reasons? Thank you.
Well, the reasons are provided in terms of why your application was not successful, but it is a summary. And if you want a detailed explanation, then that is available on request. Remember, the applications that we receive, there are more than 200. So to be able to respond to each and every application and state the reasons why you were rejected, it is kind of difficult based on the capacity of the organization. But if those requests are brought forward, we are able to respond.
One more question.
Hello, my sister. What I want to ask you is about when you have the product, final product, do you guys help with marketing? That's what I want to understand, because sometimes we have the product on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. So do you guys help with marketing, like getting in the industry, like promoting us in DSTV, something like that? What is it that we can do when we have the final product?
Well, the NFVF funding is available across the value chain. So we have funding for development. We also have funding for production, and the funding for post-production services. And the last one is for marketing and distribution. So if you already have your final